Welcome, I am Todd Raffel with ERE Media. Our domain name is ere.net, ere.net. And I'm here with Joanne Rencher. You can actually call her Jo, as most people do. Joanne Rencher, Jo Rencher from the Girl Scouts of America, Chief People Officer based in New York, Girl Scouts of America. She's speaking at ERE's conference in Las Vegas coming up in early April. We're talking here about a topic related to what she's speaking about. We often hear people say or write or talk about on a conference, blog posts, that human resources people and recruiters should be business partners. What does that mean? What is a business partner? That's what we're talking about. So I will pose that question to you, Jo. What is a business partner when it comes to this department, recruiter, HR person, the talent acquisition department in particular?
Well, thanks, Todd. It's great to chat with you. I love this topic, and I will tell you that rather than think about the word business partner as a term or some newfangled title, it really is a role. We are in this function to serve as business partners. What does it mean? It means being a trusted advisor to your leaders, whether they be top leaders, middle management, staff at all levels need you to be trusted, need to gain and glean advice from you, need to be able to rely on you as a talent leader. It also means managing a relationship. There's so many things that go on in the course of a day in this function. We're business leaders first and HR leaders second, and we have a lot of relationships to manage across the business. And people need to know that not only are we responsive and all of the things that you would naturally think of as relationship managers, we understand who we're managing in that relationship. What are the needs? What are the wants? What are the pain points? What keeps the person up at night, etc. It also means that you're knowledgeable about the business. I mentioned that before, and I say it all the time. Business leaders first, HR leaders second. Do you know your own financial model, your own revenue model? Do you understand the programmatic areas? Do you know the next acquisition that might be coming down the pike? These things are important as business partners, and in our own neck of the woods, HR leaders and talent acquisition specialists in particular really need to understand this, and that's why it's so important to serve as a business partner.
Okay, I've got advisor, relationship manager, someone who manages the relationship,
That's right.
and someone who understands the revenue model of the business. Anything else?
I think those are the three top ones for me, and it's not even just the revenue model in particular. It's really understanding the business. How does the business make money? What are the forecasts? What should they be worried about as far as new programmatic areas? If it's a nonprofit like the Girl Scouts where I work, uh, what's the horizon for social impact issues that impact and have a direct relationship to girls of the 21st century? I'm talking about soup to nuts when I say knowing the business.
Knowing the business goals, knowing what type of, and ultimately that flows into the type of people who should be hired for that business because the job that they're going to take, of course, may not be around next year and they want to be doing something different and so on. It's hiring
That's
people who
right.
fit the goals of the business and the mission of the business.
That's right. And hopefully are inspired and excited by the business and can move the dial for us as well. Yeah.
Anything more you can add about the advisory part or the relationship manager part? Any examples of that?
Well, I think, I recently wrote an article on my site for this concept of HR being a chameleon. I see the trusted advisor and the relationship manager as a bit of a chameleon. The needs of any particular leader, whether they be finance or R&D, vary dramatically in the course of any particular day or week. You could be talking to a senior leader that is worried about their vacancy, and in one part of that organization, maybe the vacancy is one that's been open for a long time. It's aged. It's a real pain point for them, and you're needing to get creative about why that might be the case or why there might be legacy issues for why this job can't be filled. And I think being able to manage that relationship in the context of what's going on in their neck of the woods is smart. It's a good relationship manager. And I also think, depending on who you're talking to, if it's a finance person, maybe they're more concerned about, well, how long has it been open and how much is it saving us? and how can we balance that with the cost to the business? And I think you really have to flex in a lot of different directions as a trusted advisor in the HR world. And those would probably be a couple of good examples, and 100 more if we had time.
How do you get to the point where you're advising and someone wants to listen to you? Is it a matter of just having enough experience and respect that they know that you're smart and knowledgeable and you know what you're doing, or is it a matter of bringing certain amounts of information to the table? How do you get to the point where you actually can make a difference and say, let me tell you the problem here, or let me tell you the solution here, as opposed, and have the person on the other end say, good point.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think, two things immediately jump to mind when you ask the question. One was, I think we always have to have our facts. I love HR, my HR colleagues, and I've been in this field for a long time. But oftentimes I find that we lose our audience when we talk from the heart and not the head. And so evidence-based practices and HR, experiences driven and embedded in data, I think is so important. I think you have to be able to know what problem you're trying to solve so that you can apply that data or those particular metrics to that solution. Why have those jobs been open so long? What's the yield from some of the sources that you're using to recruit, et cetera? I think you have to come to the table with data and with a clear sense of how you will use that to get at the thornier issues. But I also think the other point is, it's data, but it's also about being able to ask the right questions. Not everything is a problem to be solved, and you can't sort of go down rabbit holes in having someone address an issue or thinking you're solving an issue for someone when it's not really relevant. And I think asking questions as an HR leader is extremely important. You don't have to have the answers when you arrive to the party. You can ask the right questions and probe and be a tremendous listener, and that really opens the door for serving as a trusted advisor, but also being seen as someone that wants to listen, that has an ear towards the right solutions, or is trying to ask the questions to get to the problem. You gain trust, and you certainly can serve as an advisor when you're a good listener and you're asking the right questions.
Interesting, and a very good point, because you don't always think of that. You always think, let's present the evidence and that will tell them what the answer is. You don't always think, let's raise questions that maybe we haven't thought of before and feel them out.
That's right.
Thank you. Again, this is Joe Rencher, Chief People Officer at the Girl Scouts of America, based in New York. Appreciate it, Joanne. Very interesting and informative. Thanks.
Thank you, Todd.